this is Patty the Leather Lady, and we're going to talk about Chaps today. I don't think I've done a video on Chaps because I don't do them that often. I could make them, I can adjust them, I can shorten them, change the zippers on them, whatever it is. But today we're going to talk about shortening them, and these are going to be just your regular Western show Chaps. They could be just something with fringe, they could be shotgun Chaps, whatever, but it's going to have the zipper down the side. All right, so I have this client that has these thaw type suede Chaps, okay, and she wants to, she likes them, but she found this other pair, so she wants the other pair to match these, as far as the length and as far as the style of where your fringe is that hangs down off of your boot where your stirrup is, okay? So what I did is, and I started these already, and I thought of this halfway in. I'm like, I should do a video on this so people know how to fix their own Chaps, okay? And sometimes your sewing machines at home, if you have a heavier sewing machine, check with your manual and see if it does a light Chap, because if it can do faux suede, it might be able to do a thin Chap. So double check with that. Otherwise, you can always ship them to me and I'll fix them at the Leather Lady LLC. Anyway, so here we go. We're gonna talk about matching this leg with the other Chaps. So I'm gonna show you here. I've already done one side. So these are the Chaps that she wants to do. They're already, I zip them up so that I can get an accurate sort of measurement. So what I did was I laid these out on here, and I'm hoping you're going to get this. I have a new GoPro. I'm trying it out. Hopefully it'll work. If it doesn't work, oh dear. Okay, so here we go. So I am going to lay it out, and I'm going to sort of tilt this up a little bit. And what I did was, so when you've got a fancy bottom, so I cut that off. Okay, you cut it off and you want to try to make it as nice as you can. I got blessed because I didn't need to take the zipper out. Okay, you may have to take the zipper out depending. There's a couple tricks I'll tell you about that you don't have to remove the whole zipper, but you know, it's just a quick fix kind of a thing. But most of the time you want to replace that whole zipper, move it all the way up or whatever, because this has the ends on it. And but you can actually make your own ends, but we're going to talk about only shortening right now. Okay, so what you'll want to do is when you have these, you're going to want to measure, right? So she wants them, she made it easy for me. She wants them exactly like these other Chaps. Okay, so all you're going to do is line them up. You're just going to line them up, but what you're going to do is you're going to line them up from the top. You're going to line them up from the top to the bottom. Okay. So this one, as you can see, I've already done it. So this is already shortened, but you can see the one below it is long, so we have to do that one. Okay. So this is how she wanted it. Now, the problem with these here were, this was a really wide. These are really wide. This is a really wide fringe here, okay? But if you notice, it's a little thinner here. So you got to be really careful in matching what type of design you have. You've got to go by what the design is. So you want to make sure you match that. So when you cut that off, you know, really just set it aside, but really be mindful. It's better to cut and have a little bit more and then come back and trim it. So that's what you would want to do. So, and I'm matching it up to the top here. Okay. And because this is Chap leather that stretches a little bit. So also too, when you're sewing, you got to be a little bit careful, but there we go. We're just about, there we are. So we have the same length for this one. Okay. So perfect. So this leg I got. Okay. I know that you're probably saying, well, I want to see how you're going to do it. Okay. So that's what I'm here to show you next. So I'm on to the second one, right? And I could take this and lay it out flat and just copy this, Knowing me, I would copy it the opposite way, and then I would be cutting it the wrong way. And once you cut, you can do nothing. Absolutely nothing. And I don't want to buy this lady a new pair of Chaps because this is a specific color. And what I did was she wanted to match the color with to buy a shirt the same. So if you're going to do this for somebody and you're trying to shorten them, give them the bottom fringes because you're going to cut those off anyway. Give them a couple of the bottom fringes to match the color so that they can go buy a shirt or whatever it is, maybe a scarf or something that is going to match that color. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and throw that aside. Okay, so now we have this one here. Sorry, I'm spitting everywhere. So when you do cut, please make sure all your fringe is off to the side. Same with your sewing. Even if you were going to hand sew these, you know, maybe you were just going to tack it down. Maybe you had to do a show real quick and you didn't have a sewing machine, but you can tack it down so it looks like they're sewed until you're done with your show, and then you can go back and have somebody sew it for you. Okay? So we match this one up. So what I did now is, because I know that this leg is exactly what I need because we matched it up with the black. So this is the exact thing I need. Now I want to make sure that this is exactly the same length as the one below. Okay, so what I do is I'm going to flip this over. Okay, and I'm going to do the same thing like I did with the black Chaps. I'm going to match the top up. Oh my gosh, I got too many projects going here. Got Chaps everywhere right now. Okay, so I'm going to match this up, and I'm going to try to get my camera so that you guys can see this. Okay, so if you go and you look up, okay, I matched up all the way down, up and down, okay? I'm done there. But now you can see, and I already know my measurements because I really was anal about measuring and knowing that this is 4.5 inches right here. So we're cutting them 4.5 inches, okay? So I unzipped it because what I'm gonna need to do now is I'm gonna have to mark it. You could mark it with a pen as long as you're gonna cut on that, or cut where the line is not going to be seen. I didn't want to do that. So what I did is I took one of these white pencils, you know, that you use for sewing, and then I just marked it. And it gives you a nice little line here, but I didn't mark on here because remember in the very beginning, I told you you're going to take that stuff off, right? So here's the thing. So what I did was I removed this, and then I look at the inside, and there is this nice finish that has this here. I am going to remove it, and I am going to put it on the finished one as well. I want to do that because I want to give quality work. If you don't have the same color thread, go black. Don't ever use a thread that is lighter than the color of the fabric you're using. And when I'm making horse blankets or washing and repairing horse blankets, I never, ever, ever go to a lighter thread. Why? It stands out like a sore thumb. So when in doubt, go black, okay? So the thing is, this one here, I thought it had this color in it, but it didn't. It actually had black thread. So it's going to be a mess, yes. So you're not going to leave that, okay? It doesn't matter. Here, it doesn't matter because we're going to cut it off. But here, it does matter. So you make sure you pull all these off and clean it, okay? Now with leather, okay, you have to know, yes, it has holes. And I'm going to try to match the holes as best as I can, because what I don't want to do is take these holes and then put one in between it, because now I've split it. I've split the leather. I know that's confusing. I'm going to repeat that. So these little holes on my sewing machine, I'm going to count how many stitches per inch, okay? So if I go with my ruler It doesn't matter where you do it, just so that you can see it. So I'm going to take my ruler, I'm going to go from the end there, and I'm going to count how many stitches. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 stitches in between for an inch. So I'm going to make sure that my stitches on my machine are 5 stitches per inch. Okay, hope that's not confusing you. It's important when you're working with any kind of leather. When I'm doing saddles or bridles or tack work or martingales, anything leather, I try to do that, because if you split it, it's done. Because if you put that hole in between and that thread cuts it, it's done. Okay, but do you see how the difference is? You make sure it's all clean. You who sew, you already know this, but you know, some beginners don't know that. It's like, why don't you just keep moving on? And because it's really important. Now, this person who made these chaps used a glue. Looks like they used some bond. I'm going to show you another trick to do. Okay, so I'm going to do that. I'm not going to worry about what's down here because I'm going to cut all this off. But I am going to do the same thing with this. So you're like, well, how'd you get that off? How did you get that off? Glad you asked. So I'm going to show you here with a surprisingly super duper knife, the best knife you could have in your leather shop. Ba-ba! Box knife. Okay, so if you're working with horse blankets or anything like this, this is what you do with that too. So you split it apart, and the reason why this is hard to split apart is this person used a bond, a glue. This is definitely like a barge, a really light barge. They put a thing over. You can do that. You can put glue down so it holds it before you sew. However, sometimes glue will get into your needles and gunk up your machines. Okay, so I'm going to show you a trick that doesn't do that. I'm just taking the end and lightly, because I can go ahead and cut this, but I don't want to cut this. So I'm putting the pressure of the knife on the inside. Okay, so if I'm going to cut anything, I'm going to cut where we're going to throw it away. Okay, so I'm going to do this. So you got to be careful. Now, also make sure your blade is extremely sharp, guys. If your blade's not sharp, you're gonna actually rip something. And yeah, if you're working on somebody else's chaps, don't do that, okay? Just take your time, be patient, which me being Irish and a Virgo, I don't have. See, now this is getting really stuck here. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to hold both sides and split. Both sides and split. Hear that crack? That was that. Keep your fingers away so you don't end up in the ER. And if you're young, do not do this. Have mom or dad around to do this. Help you do it. All right. Pull a little bit more. Again, there's that barge. You can hear the glue, which is good. You want to have something to adhere it down, but I'm going to show you a trick. All right, and there we go. Now, yes, you're going to want to clean all these threads off. So whoever sewed this, they double sewed it on the ends to hold it down for sure. Okay, so I'll go ahead and clean that off. Here, but I won't go through the whole thing for you guys to save time, just so you know how to do this. Okay, and then you're going to clean this all off. Okay, we still have to cut. All right, we still have to cut, and now we can cut. Do not, I repeat, key point, do not keep them folded. If you're going to do it this way, you can unzip them all the way, unzip them half the way. Do not leave them folded when you're going to cut. You're going to mess it up 100%. So what I do is, okay, I've got my 2 parts, don't want to lose them. So what I did was I made it perfect. I followed it. And remember I said I knew from the other one that they were 4.5 or 4.25 inches from the bottom. So what do? You measure, well, I was doing it the other way. You measure 4.25 inches from the bottom, 4.25 inches from the bottom. Now this is starting to curve, so you just go to the end of that, and you're gonna do 4.25 inches from the bottom. So that's where my marks are with my white pencil, and all you're gonna do, mark, 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 and then you're gonna mark, okay? And then we're gonna take our box cutter, make sure all the fringe is out of the way. And back this up just a little bit there. Because you do not want to cut any fringe. They will notice that hole. And if you're being judged, you just don't want to do that. So, see, I had her cut it off down here, those 2 fringes, okay? So, I'm going to take this, and I'm going to go here. I'm going to watch my lines. And then when I get to this point, I'm going to add the ruler in, because I want to make sure that I'm straight. I am not perfect, so here we go. I'm going to cut right below this piece of fringe here. I may need to trim it later. And I have a new blade in, so and when you're cutting, always look ahead. Don't look straight down at what you're cutting. Look straight ahead. And I'm having a hard time doing this because I have a shadow. So I'm taking it in segments. And if you're in doubt, cut down to here. You can always trim it because, you know, the other thing is that, okay, now I'm back to that straight part. I'm going to hit that first, and then I'll connect them. So you see how much room I still have before the zipper starts? This is perfect. This is an ideal situation in having to do an adjustment, okay? So then what's going to happen is we are going to go, and this will come off. Don't worry about that. That comes right off. Okay, so I'm going to go back and pick all this stuff out. And then it's not on the back so much, but you do want to get it out, okay? And then if there's any extra threads, then you're going to go ahead and pick those 2. And you're like, but Patty, you're not going to see that. So yeah, you're not going to, but quality work. Come on, you guys, quality work. Do your best. You know, give the person. What if something were to come unglued and they look at it and like, oh my gosh, they didn't even take anything off. Look at that, how horrible of a job they did. Okay, so here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna match up. And you can feel the bumps underneath there and the fringe. And you will, sometimes when you're brand new, you're gonna sew the fringe right in. You just come back out, cut it, come back out and do it. Okay, so we are gonna go ahead. And remember, this stretches a little bit, so we're going to go back in. And like I said, I probably cut this a little big because I would rather trim it than be too short. So I'm going to stretch this, and I'm going to move it as far out as I can. And I'm going to make sure that this matches up with this, okay? Because I'm going to trim this little piece off. Not a problem. So what the key is, because we're going to put this on the inside, okay, this is going to go from here to here on the other side, and it's going to come in so that this stitch here is going to match all the way down there. So it's going to be one straight stitch, okay? So we're going to go ahead and do that. I have a sewing machine. Like I said, I've done the other side. So I'm just trying to teach you some basics on just making a quick adjustment. Now, if she told me, hey, don't worry about this, keep it off, then you're pretty much done unless you want to add some support on the back. For the back, you know, say where your boots are, your spurs are. You can also make a slit back here for your spurs if you wear spurs. Her other one has it, so I may text her and say, hey, do you want a nice split for your spurs? Because I have this extra that I could go ahead and put around it and make it nice. But that's up to the person, okay? So here's the quick tip I'm going to show you. So instead of using glue on the back of here, because it's been glued once, that's okay. So what you can do is use, oh my gosh, where'd my scissors go? Use little two-sided tape. So this is, I use a ton of this. You can get this on my website. You can get different widths. You can get a real thin one. You can get a thick one. This is just a size that I use quite a bit. And what you do is you look where there isn't stitching, okay? So there's a nice piece stitching here. So I will put this on here to hold it in place. And then what I'll do is I'll even, you know, make it to a point. So there you go. So when I go and get ready to put it down, I'll peel that off and make sure it sticks, and then it's not touching my needles, it's not putting gunk on my needles, it's not creating any problem with that. Also too, if you're hand sewing, if you're doing a real quick stitch to just tack them down for the show and then you're going to fix them later, that's another good thing to have in your repair arsenal when you go to shows or anything like that. Again, you can get them different sizes on my website, okay? So we're going to go ahead and do that. And then we're going to sew that in, and we're going to do the same thing with this. All right. So this was on the end. This is going to go down here, and this is going to go down here. But remember, the underneath stitch is going to be this stitch. So it's the same stitch. Okay. So you want to make sure that you're on the mark for those kind of things. So that's where that is. And then when you're done, it's going to look like this, only shorter. So, but those are some quick tips if you want to just adjust your shaps. Here is the clencher, guys. I was blessed to have her still have some area where no zipper, so it made it great, made it easy. A lot of shaps, they will go down to the end, okay? And here's a zipper tip, okay? So what you would do with that is you would, because you've got it between two pieces of leather, you're going to splice this open, and sadly, if it's glued like the rest, which this one is, you're going to have to be super delicate. So whether you use a box knife or I don't think you can even use a ripper on here, but I always use a box knife. But you would go towards the inside so you don't rip anything on the outside. And then what you are going to do, because this has an end, so you can actually peel it out to where you need to stop. Now this is a quick fix, guys. And if it's something that you're like, well, I don't want to buy a whole new pair of shaps and I don't want to pay, you know, $50 a leg to have somebody do it. So you're looking at $100 to remove and fix that whole zipper or more, depending on who you take it to. So you're just going to cut this out and you're going to go to where you don't want the zipper. Okay. So then you're going to take that and you're going to snip the zipper off. You're like, but then you have no end. That's when you take your little hand needle and thread and you make an end in there. Because if you start, and there's videos on that, I'm sure. And if not, comment below, please, and I'll show you how to do it. I do it all the time for motorcycle shaps and motorcycle things. But you're going to take it and you're just going to snip between the two. And then you're going to take that needle and thread and just wrap with thread. And then when you pull that slide down, there's no way it can go past that, okay? Or the second way, but most people don't have this and don't have it handy, you can buy these little ends. Now you're like, well, I'll just take that end off and put it over there. Good luck. Because these are pinched on so hard, but sometimes you can get them. And then you would just put it in between your teeth, okay? So that is how you would just do a really quick fix on some Chaps if you're going to shorten them. If there's other adjustments, now like this lady here, she's like, can we make them a little bit bigger in the hip area where the top of the zipper goes? And I said, well, how much do you need? And she says, oh, just like a hair. I said, then what you're going to do once we get this all done is you're going to take them home and you're going to wet them from the inside. Key note, I'm going to repeat myself. Wet them from the inside, especially if it's a lighter color. For the fact is, if you put water on the outside, you may leave a water line. So you're just going to damp them enough so that you can put them on and they're going to stretch a little, because leather stretches and these are stretchy. This is pebbled leather, pebbled motorcycle leather. And so you're just going to stretch it enough so that when you, and sit in them, sit in the Chaps when they're wet so they can stretch there. And then they will stretch enough for you to be able to do that. If you're going to need an inch or something like that, then you'll probably have to have elastic put in. Okay, so those are different adjustments. This is just to shorten them and put them back together. So again, if you haven't, if you need Chaps adjusted, I ship all over the world, all over the United States, and we can adjust them. But the thing is, know how and where you want to adjust them so that we don't make any mistakes, all right? But I hope this was helpful. Please go to theleatherladyllc.com for leather products, tack, sheepskin. We also have some great things coming up in the fall that you'll want to go ahead and subscribe to my YouTube channel, The Leather Lady LLC, and watch for an upcoming exciting adventure and event in the fall of 2024. And have a wonderful day.